I snagged this super ugly duckling at the Goodwill several months ago. And since then, it has been sitting in the back of my husband's truck, and I haven't looked at it since. So, in this video, I am joining the Ugly Duckling Challenge, and this is hosted by Corey over at Desert DIY. And this is the perfect piece because the goal for this challenge is to work on something that you've had for a really long time. And as I'm assessing the ugly duckling that I'm going to be working on, I realized that I paid way too much. And how did I not see all of this ickiness when I decided to buy it? Lots of water damage on the top and peeling veneer and just really dirty and gross. So I'm going to start by cleaning it, just using some soap and some water and a washcloth, wiping all of that off. Now, when I pictured this in my head, I had a complete plan of how I was going to redo it. And then once I got it in the house and I looked at it, I had no idea because what I wanted to do was not going to work. So I had to change my game plan and figure out a new inspiration for this piece. I'm going to fill all of that veneer that I pulled off. I pulled it all off, and you can see there's some water damage there. It's a little bit bubbling up, and yeah. But I'm just using some plastic wood, and I'm going to fill that all in, and then go back over it and sand it down and try and get it as smooth as I possibly can. And I'm doing a good scuff sand on the whole entire piece as well, just to help adhere my next layer of paint. And there was also some drip marks and some other areas that needed to be smoothed down. And I'm using this mist tint paint that I picked up at Home Depot, I believe it was. I always check out the mist tint section. Always, because you can always find good deals. And this is going to end up being my base coat. So I'm just laying this down on painting this whole entire piece in this brown color. And then I can move on to my next step once it's dry. I ended up deciding on doing a blended look on this piece, and I don't necessarily do like a perfect blend where it's like just two different colors. I'm using multiple colors. I'm starting out with a latex paint, which is another mist tint color that I picked up at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. And I'm just kind of randomly applying the paint all over the piece. And I want to make sure my paint stays wet. I want to work kind of quickly. The next paint I'm using is a Debbie's DIY brand, and this is actually also a mist tint paint from her website I had purchased that she had a while back. And it's actually dried up. It has been a while since I used this paint, but you never want to throw away your DIY paint. Even if it's dried up, you can still use it because it is a clay-based paint. It's highly pigmented. You can add water just to reactivate it. So never throw that DIY paint away. I'm adding my water. I'm sticking my paintbrush and kind of just rubbing it around in that hard glob of paint in the can. And then I'm applying my paint with my paintbrush. So my latex paint is like a pale yellow color, and this DIY paint is really close to Apothecary from the DIY brand. It's like a lighter version of it. And I'm just kind of taking my paintbrush and I'm blending them together. I'm going back and forth in different directions. And that just kind of mixes the two colors together to create a new color, and it gives it depth and dimension and all of that. And I'm not changing or switching out paintbrushes. I'm using my same exact paintbrush to blend these colors together. If you feel like you'd rather use two different paintbrushes, that's fine. But this is just how I do it and my technique and my method. My next paint I'm using is Miss Lillian's No Wax Chalk Paint, and the color is called Lichen Lichen. It's like a olivey green. And then I'm just pouring some of it out onto like a little makeshift palette, which is like a container lid thing. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm just going in different directions and back and forth, up and down, diagonally, just kind of trying to blend that paint in together. I find this technique just really fun and like almost freeing creatively. And you just got to really trust the process and just kind of go with it. It's important to keep your paint wet, and that really helps blend your colors together. So if you have a spray bottle, a mister bottle works best. I would recommend using that to keep spraying your paint if it seems like it's starting to dry. I will go back in and add more of some of the other colors if I feel like I need more of the yellow here or more of the pocket theory. And I just keep doing this and working the paint in and blending it until I'm happy with it. When I started this piece, I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to do. And then when that idea didn't work, I had another idea. And it was completely different than what I'm doing here. And I was trying to kind of fit it into a box. And in my head, it just wasn't working. So I searched and I searched for inspiration on Pinterest and on the internet, and I couldn't wrap my head around how I wanted to create this piece. So I just ended up grabbing a whole bunch of different paints and I just kind of went with it. I feel like sometimes we overthink things, and it just it makes it more stressful and it makes it harder, and it just makes the creative process not what it's supposed to be and not fun and not something that makes you happy. Let me know down in the comments if that's something you agree with. Do you feel like sometimes we overthink things, or is it just me? I'm just continuing to add my three different colors and just blending them in together. And I'm just trusting the process and going back and forth with my paintbrush. And they're blending, I think, beautifully. And as you can see, you don't need to only just use one type of paint to blend. You can blend with a variety of different types of paint. And like I'm doing here, I'm using latex paint, I'm using a clay-based paint, and I am using a chalk paint, and I'm blending them all together, and it's working wonderfully. We don't need to worry about how they're going to react with each other as long as they are water-based products. You absolutely cannot blend a water-based product and an oil-based product because scientifically, water and oil, well, they just don't mix. And if you guys enjoy content like this, I sure hope you smash that like button and subscribe to my channel because I love doing different creative pieces like this and furniture flipping and DIY videos. I love it all. So yeah, consider doing it. It's free for you to do. It doesn't cost you anything and it really helps my channel out. I hope you guys can see how easy it is to blend this way. It just gives so much depth and dimension. It looks beautiful. I feel like it's like a tide pool that I'm looking down in, and I'm just loving it. I love it so much. Let me know what you guys think about this type of blending. Next, I'm going to add some gold accents and highlights. And I'm using this Rust-Oleum metallic accents and champagne. And I'm using an artist brush. And I'm just going to go along the edges. And I like to take my finger and kind of blend it out with my finger. That's sometimes like my most valuable tool right there. And I'm just spreading it out. And this is just going to give it some like glitter, glam, pizzazz, whatever you want to call it. It just adds a lot of extra interest to it. And when you're using this, if you ever feel like you have too much, you can just get a wet washcloth and wipe it off. I'm using that same Rust-Oleum metallic accent paint, and I'm just kind of lightening up my hardware a little bit and making it a little bit more shiny because this does have like metallic flakes and everything in it. It makes it kind of sparkly. So I'm just adding that to my hardware. To seal everything, I'm using a clear matte varnish, which is a Waverly brand. It's just from Walmart. And a old yogurt container. I'm pouring my varnish into the container because, well, my paintbrush doesn't fit inside of the container, but this also keeps from contaminating any of the product that is inside of the container that has the varnish in it. I'm just brushing it on with my paintbrush, and I'm just going to do 2, maybe 3 coats of the varnish on the whole body and 3 to 4 on the top because this is a bedside table and it's probably going to get a lot of use. People like to put their coffee cups on the top of them and sometimes slide things across them. So you just want to make sure you're protecting it really well, or I do anyways. And lastly, I get to put the pillows back on, which is exciting because then you get to see the whole entire piece come together. And I hope you guys like this video, and I want to make sure to remind you to watch the playlist because this video is part of the Ugly Duckling Challenge, and there's going to be a bunch of amazing artists that are going to be joining. So I will link the playlist down below as well as on the end screen so you can check out those videos. And don't forget to check out Corey over at Desert DIY. She has an amazing channel over there as well. Here is a quick reminder of the before, and finally, here is the final piece. Let me know what you guys think, And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and I hope you got some inspiration. Thank you all so much for watching and joining me today. And I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.